The last survival kit video I made was 6 years ago, and all has stayed the same, except for the addition of 2 shiny new items, the 8-litre water bag and the folding metal wood stove. 2 simple, humble items that have made camping and the chores of the outdoors 10 times easier. Hear me out. Picture this. It's been a long, hard day of hiking, and now it's time to set up camp and build a campfire. And so you build the campfire, and you enjoy the campfire. The sun sets, the night falls. You rest well. You wake up, and it's time to get going again. But hold the phone, Jeff. You've forgotten something. You head back to camp, and then you ask yourself what to do about the big old patch of smouldering coals and glowing embers that was once your campfire. Do you leave it smouldering, thinking that it will extinguish by itself? That's bold. That's how you end up with the deaths of 1,000 burned alive cuddly koala bears on your conscience. So, avoiding that, maybe you'll pour whatever's left in your water bottle onto the remains of the campfire. That's not enough. Maybe you'll urinate on it. Not a bad idea, but it's still not enough. This is just water, by the way. Or maybe you'll stamp and trample upon the coals, and in doing so, irreparably warping, melting and distorting the rubber soles of your boots so that they no longer grip to wet surfaces. This could have been avoided. So maybe you'll take that bottle and head down to the stream to fill it with water. That's better, but 1 litre of water is not enough to completely and confidently extinguish a campfire. 5 to 6 litres are required at a bare minimum. So that's 5 more trips back and forth to the stream. That takes time and energy. And eventually, while you may have now fully extinguished your campfire after your multiple trips of water fetching, now your water bottle is contaminated by that disease-ridden raw water. If you want to drink out of that again, you'll need to sterilise it with boiling water, which means making another campfire at some point, which means another campfire to extinguish, which means even more back and forth to the stream and back, and thus you find yourself stuck in an endless, inescapable loop of misery and despair. You'll never escape the woodlands. You're stuck here now, forever. Unless, of course, you've decided to start carrying a 9-litre water bag in your kit. So, on your way to setting up camp, you can take 1 trip to the stream to fill up the bag, and that's all of your drinking water readily available on site, and all of the water you'll need to safely and thoroughly drench and extinguish your campfire the next morning. So, less time extinguishing campfires, less time fetching water, and less chance of burning the forest down. That is what makes the water bag a solid addition to the kit, as less time running errands means more time to enjoy enjoyable things, such as doing nothing. That's what we like. Also consider that not all water sources are easily accessible. Some have quite steep banks that are covered in plants that you need to scramble down to get to. Having to do that once to fill up a water bag is not unreasonable. But having to do that multiple times to fill a bottle as many times as you need to extinguish a campfire, well, you'll start to think back to that one time where you half watched and half listened to the British man bang on about the water what's it. You will remember the recommendations, and you will come to the understanding. Side note, the brand does not matter. As long as it holds 8 to 9 litres of water and is strong enough to not have the bottom blow out when you pick it up, that's great. This particular one comes with a valve, which is handy to have, as I run my drinking water through a Sawyer filter. So transferring water from the water bag to the filter bag is simple. It would otherwise be rather awkward. More generic versions are valveless, which makes them slimmer and easier to fold and slot away into backpack compartments. They are also blue. There is no situation where having a 9-litre water bag folded and tucked away in your kit isn't useful. It's optional, but it's a great option to have. And once you've taken what you need for drinking water, the rest of the bag drenches the remains of the campfire into a nice wet slush that you can then cover and conceal so as not to leave any trace of your presence. You can get to going without wondering whether or not you'll be the one responsible for burning half the country down. Plus, in the warmer months, those ponds and lakes become breeding grounds for mosquitoes. You might do well to steer clear of them. The Waterbag gives you the option to camp further away from water sources, more comfortably, while not at any disadvantage. Also consider that a good portion of campers that get lost do so while venturing out and away from camp to gather resources. They then find themselves unable to relocate the camp that they strayed from. But with the Waterbag, once you're at camp, you're at camp. No need to venture out. So get in that hammock and get busy doing nothing. Your preparations have given you the right to do so. Exercise that right. And also, if you're hiking from point A to point B to point C, and you're not entirely confident that there will be streams in between to refill on water, the Waterbag allows you to carry an extra couple of litres with you. That's not too much trouble. The second addition to the kit to make your outdoor life easier is the folding metal wood stove. If you're not building fire for warmth and just want to boil water, make coffee, or cook up a cup of noodles, then building a traditional campfire is time-consuming and excessive. The time it takes to gather all the firewood, the travel it takes to find all of the appropriate sizes of firewood, then the time it takes to set up the campfire so that it burns well, this is all no small task. And then consider at least 50% of the flames aren't actually contributing to the boiling of the water. They are essentially just decorative. Plus a huge patch of smouldering embers to extinguish. That's a few trips to the stream and back. And a huge patch of scorched earth to then cover and conceal. It is inefficient for the simple task of making a cup of coffee or a cup of noodles. Whereas with the folding wood stove, you need not worry about such problems. The materials you need are trivial in comparison to a traditional campfire. Just a couple handfuls of twigs and small sticks, which you can pick up from anywhere you park yourself. The time it takes to boil a cup of water is swift. The coals are minimal and the scorched earth virtually non-existent. The wood stove is also rather handy to have if you are in open, barren environments or mountainous terrain, where having shielding from the wind is invaluable. Plus, in those environments, maybe all you'll have available to gather for firewood is a few branches and a couple handfuls of twigs, which is fine because that's all you'll need for the folding camp stove, a minimalist's force multiplier. Starting the fire is simple. All of the little twigs and broken branches that would otherwise be considered too small to bother with for a traditional campfire, that's what we want. Spend a few minutes collecting those, stuff it all in there, and ignite it however you choose to ignite it. You need not venture outside of camp for a campfire's worth of firewood, as all the little twigs and sticks needed for the camp stove can be found in a wide abundance wherever you set up shop. And then you can sit back and relax as the water swiftly boils. Poke a few more twigs and sticks in there as you go. It is comparatively effortless, and since it burns so little wood, it produces very little coals. Half a litre of water is enough to get them fully extinguished. That's a quick job you can pack up and get to going. Again, brand does not matter, as long as it's a few metal sheets that piece together to make a stove you can burn twigs in, that's great. All stoves share more or less the same design, and all perform equally as well. Stainless steel could be considered heavy at 500 grams or so. Titanium is half the weight, but also double the price. So you do you. This particular one, all the pieces are hinged together and are held in place with a pin. The base plate slots in, and it is upon this plate you will place your burnables. The second plate has a hole in it designed to accommodate alcohol burners, which is useful if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, it is completely optional whether you include it or not. I like to think that it helps keep the flames centered and prevents them from spilling over the sides, but it doesn't. But fires burning too well is a nice problem to have, so we don't complain. Also, if it is raining or drizzling, that second plate is water shielding. The water will evaporate off of the hot top plate rather than directly douse the fire. So it's always good to include. The final touches, the cross platform that you'll come to rest your cup upon. Nice and easy. The wood stove is essentially a Dakota fire hole. One you don't have to carry a folding shovel for, spend 5 to 10 minutes digging, and 5 minutes filling back in. It is quite handy to have a portable Dakota fire hole in your pack that you can deploy in under a minute. As if time is of the essence, then being able to stop, boil up what you need to quickly, pack up and then move on, that has value. Side note, it is worth cleaning your cookware once you get home. Scrub the soot off. Otherwise, your bag and the room that you keep your bag in will stink like stale camp smoke, which does become irritating to the nose eventually. So clean your cookware. Get it all shiny and new again. Your cookware deserves it. They have served you well. Make it a part of your post-camp ritual. And to reiterate, I am not necessarily recommending these two particular makes and models. The brand isn't relevant. They are in essence just a few sheets of metal and a plastic bag. It doesn't need to be fancy, just get whatever's available and come to the understanding. As there are times that you can feel at home in the wilderness. And there are times where you can feel on the back foot, trying to keep up with camp chores with that finite amount of time, light and energy that you may or may not have available. These two items aid in getting the job done with minimal time and effort. They give you the choice. If you don't want to camp next to a questionable water source, you can. If you don't want to camp next to that mosquito-infested lake, you can. If you want to camp a little further afield while not being at any disadvantage, you can. If you want to be swift about boiling water or cooking something up, you can. If you want to be quick about getting up and away in the morning, having the extinguishing of the overnight campfire to be quick and painless, you can. The wood stove and the water bag give you options. You are not condemned to camping any one particular way. You can pick and choose how and where you set up camp, and you can pick and choose how and where you exert your efforts. And that's good, as less toil and strife, less time building campfires, less time extinguishing campfires, less time fetching water, and less time boiling water means more time to sit, stare at the clouds, and think about aliens. So these would be my two humble recommendations to you all. Happy camping, and I'll see you out there. Peace!